Welcome to the UEA Catholic Society Podcast. This is Galilee episode 2. I'm Jamie.
I'm Igor.
I'm Oskar.
Welcome. My name is Adrian, and it's very nice to meet you. I hope you had a fantastic day so far, and our lovely discussion here will make it even better.
Hello, I'm Philip.
Nice. Okay, well, so welcome to episode 2. I mean, you guys might be a bit confused why I'm calling it episode 2, but last episode was technically 1.1.
Why is that the case?
Because we somewhat covered similar topics as from episode 1, and so we just I just decided, well, I'll just call it 1.1 because it's kind of similar, and yeah, so you guys get the full-on, a nice round number.
And here I want it to be like an episode 3.
Well, you need to
Well, you can be in
back then.
episode 3 as well.
Yeah, exactly. So guys, slightly morbid and sad topic to start on, but I'm assuming you're somewhat familiar with the news of that Catholic bishop in America getting shot in his home?
Somewhat, that is correct.
Well, give us the gist of the story.
Yeah, so essentially, in LA, 69-year-old Bishop David O'Connell was shot in his own home during the afternoon. This is the Independent. A Los Angeles Catholic bishop was found dead from a gunshot wound inside his home in a suburb of the city, according to officials. Police were called to the home of Auxiliary Bishop David O'Connell in the Hacienda Heights neighborhood at 1 p.m. on Saturday, reported the Los Angeles Times. The Irish-born bishop was found inside the home with a single gunshot wound to the upper torso, and is now being investigated as a murder. So the Archbishop of Los Angeles, kind of as you would expect, said the 69-year-old bishop had died unexpectedly. I mean, it's pretty unexpected when you get shot in your own home, I imagine.
Yes.
But yeah, so of course we should preface this with the fact that this is a very tragic occurrence. And Adrian, I think you mentioned that this is the first time, well not the first time, but like the last time an American bishop was shot was a long time ago.
I mean, I think the last time an American bishop was murdered was in the 19th century. So, it's quite some time has been past.
Yeah, so quite a significant event.
Isn't it the case that the person who murdered that bishop was the husband of the housekeeper? Because I mean, the most interesting thing in this case, no matter how tragic it is the motive that is behind it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you're right actually. Housekeeper's husband arrested over murder of Irish bishop in Los Angeles. So, interesting. Yeah, I don't really know what to say about that, to be fair. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, the different scenarios may be playing out in terms of, well, I don't know, jealousy over cooked dinners.
I mean, this kind of had me thinking about this death of clergymen in general.
Right.
And how, like, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but whenever I hear of like a priest dying somehow, it's always, I don't know, I always feel about it differently as if I hear about anyone else dying. I don't know how.
I mean, the clergymen are meant to be sort of the leaders of a parish first, but like a set culture in different areas. So it's almost like an attack of that culture.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very much the case that, well, the church is constituted by all of us, but the clergy are much more visible in terms of like anthropological basis of it, in the sense that, well, they wear the collar, they have the funky clothes, and also they are the ones who celebrate mass. And well, a priest getting murdered is a much more visible attack on the Catholic Church as an institution than a lay Catholic being murdered or a faith. Of course, both matters are very important, of course, both are martyrs. But nonetheless, in terms of public image, the perception of it, it's a different story. Like recently in Oxford, we had Professor Rex come over to us to speak about Henry VIII. And the talk was titled Henry VIII, Fidei a Defender or Fidei Distractor. And one of the key aspects in the talk was Professor Rex talking about how massive of an event was the execution of Capuchins, I think it was, by on the authority of Henry VIII, in the sense that previously, in 16th century England, clergy was considered very much sacrosanct, someone untouchable. But the king publicly, well, of course, there were instances where clergy were punished for treason and stuff, but all the time before that, before their execution, they were actually dethroned. In this case of the execution of the Capuchins, they were not dethroned, and they were hand-drawn and quartered in the monk habits. And in that sense, a very much striking image saying that, you know, the church is no longer sacrosanct, the king is the head, we can do whatever we want. Me, Henry VIII.
Yeah, no. I mean, Henry VIII is a very interesting topic in of himself. I think what you say about the idea of priests being obviously then considered to be like a very sacred thing, and like to harm one would be unthinkable. And I just, it just feels weird. Like, it feels like priests are of such a high station that you wouldn't expect them to die the way any other normal lay Catholic would.
My dear Jamie, I think you might be committing the sin of clericalism at this point.
Okay, well, expound upon that, please, Adrian, so that the viewers may be enlightened.
Well, it seems that you are assigning too much of a role of leadership to the clergy in the church. I'm not sure whether the synodality would favour such an approach.
And synodality is also a very interesting topic.
Very much so.
Yes.
Especially, you know, the fact that it doesn't appear there's enough of nice churches in Prague to say a decent mass. A hotel room is preferred.
Yeah, but I mean, in return to just, regardless of just how I feel about priests being murdered and the like, it's I mean, obviously, I'm talking about it from a very subjective view. I'm not saying, you know, everyone should feel that way. Obviously, even though priests are priests, they're still subject to death the same way any other person is. You just need to look at all of the priest martyrs, of course.
This is, I was thinking you could sort of extrapolate that link to, I guess, structures. So, obviously, there's the clergymen. You could, in terms of structures, you could establish them as the church, and then there's the lay people who have their own homes. Let's say there's a fire, right? If it's on just a regular family house, obviously it's devastating, right? Not a good thing, but it doesn't seem like it's an attack on the church. But if there's a fire on the church, even if it's accidental, it would still feel like there's some sort of attack on it. So I guess that explains why there would be that link to the clergymen feeling so sacred.
I mean, going back to the anthropology motive, it again is the case that usually clergymen are like the centre of the local community. And so if you are the centre of the local community and you are murdered, then that's a sign to the local community that, well, it's under attack. The leader of yours is just getting killed.
Yeah, and then in the same vein, how churches tend to, at least in cities that come from medieval times, churches tend to be the centre of the cities themselves.
That's very much symbolic in the sense that, well, it is meant to be the centre of life.
Yeah. So it is at the end of the day an attack on the whole local community in a sense.
Yeah.
And we pray that truth is found out and the culprit is rightly punished.
And I mean, priests are the shepherds of souls, and we pray that the souls of this particular bishop hopefully find a new shepherd soon enough. So, having discussed that, what are your opinions on Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum? Hey guys.
That's a nice segue.
I think, having been in Thailand teaching English there for a few weeks, I have tasted many delicacies, and I have to say that bugs are quite nice tasting, quite salty, and they'd be a perfect snack for beer.
So you are in support of Klaus Schwab's notions of you will eat the bags.
Well, I have already eaten the bag.
What about
Oh,
sleeping
and you
in
did
the
live in
pods?
the pod. You did live in the pod as well.
Yes, that
Yes.
did happen.
Tell us about the pod, Adrian.
Well, imagine this. Imagine you volunteered to teach English and talent in a primary school. And it's very fun, the kids are lovely. Johnny, I have to say that I think in this bleak world of ours, in this vale of tears, the joy and the radiance and the genuine sincerity of kids is one of the most amazing things there is. And it's a perfect antidote to any kind of irony or cynicism or sarcasm thereof.
Yeah.
But that was quite fun. Yeah, the organization with which I was there kind of hosted like a cultural trip at the end. And part of that cultural trip was a journey to a place called Pattaya in Thailand. And Pattaya developed in a very funky way in the 60s and 70s when American GIs in the middle of the Vietnam War got to spend their free time in that place. So you got yourself quite a lot of fun and hedonistic establishments around the place with many wonderful looking women standing on the streets. But yes, in that lovely place, a man who attempts to be a Catholic every so often, I was put into a capsule hotel. So essentially, what you got was yourself bed, shelf or two, and that's it. And very thin walls. So it was quite difficult to actually lock yourself in the room and not leave because you were literally in a pod. And well, leaving into the wilder world of Pattaya was also not one of the most pleasant things to do, at least in my humble opinion. And as such, well, I ended up just reading books on the beach, which was very nice. But yes, I have experienced eating the bags and living in a pod. And the bags part is quite fun. I used to be providing me with beer. The pod, no, I was just going insane.
So as a whole, it would be a fair assessment to say that you have lived the World Economic Forum
Yes.
lifestyle.
I
And
have.
would you say it was a more positive or negative
Experience.
in comparison to your day-to-day life as it is now?
If I was to live in a pod, I would go insane.
Interesting.
But bugs do go well with beer.
Yes.
So whilst
I stand firmly.
Yeah, so Klaus Schwab, if you're watching, perhaps you could market like kind of like beer snacks, but like made of bugs, like pork scratchings or something.
Yeah.
And to be fair, I think I would probably prefer to eat bugs than pork scratchings.
Ooh.
I don't know about you guys, but
I don't like pork scratchings.
Neither do I.
you can just get bugs for free on the garden. Pork scratches cost like £2 for a tiny packet. Like,
They're so savoury though, they're perfect.
I mean, well, to be fair, I don't mind the taste of pork scratchings, but it's the fact they're so hard to crunch and chew that is a bother for me. I'm like, I don't want to go to this much effort to just chew pig skin.
Yeah.
You know?
But I mean, if we're discussing Klaus Schwab and WEF, I think in terms of getting bogged down in the details of the forum, which are available online, let's kind of like sketch out the image of roughly like the whole circle of people who are engaging roughly in this kind of world of global research.
first and foremost, I think we should probably establish
Mhm.
and explain what the World Economic Forum is.
Yeah.
Yes, fair enough. So the World Economic Forum organization established by Klaus Schwab, what was it, 1971?
Someone understood.
Yeah, meets in Davos, and essentially it's meant to be a place where all the businessmen, politicians, and other funky, powerful people in the world, influential people, get together and discuss things. So it's, well, if you happen to play the game Disco Elysium, it's like the mobile intern of the game. Essentially, in Disco Elysium, the world you are put into, it's a very good game. I recommend it. Well, you happen to be playing as this one detective who, well, was not having such a good time, got really, really drunk, and had amnesia develop after his 3 days of drinking straight. And the world of Disco Elysium is made up of this one country called, well, country city called Revachol, in which there was, like 50 years ago, a revolution. And all the forces of the world united to stop this revolution. And those were the forces of Morvalentin. And essentially, Morvalentin rules Revachol as kind of an occupied territory, and it's made out of like financiers, bankers, and people who are very much interested in keeping the current system of governance continuing with money being in the right place. So I think you can make certain comparisons with Davos and the WEF family.
Yeah, because I think a lot of current politicians in power, or at least with strong links, they've I want to say graduated from WEF, but I don't know if graduated is the right term. But I know that I think Emmanuel Macron is one of them for sure. And is Rishi Sunak?
I heard that he at least has relations.
When it comes to Rishi Sunak and relations, you should watch the video of Rishi Sunak and Justin Trudeau calling Volodymyr Zelensky together. I think it was the case. They make such a perfect couple. Like two lovely technocrats.
There was something about them politicians having World Economic Forum badges.
Yeah.
Like they have badges with the logo. I don't know how reliable this is, considering that I saw it on Reddit. It's potentially easy to edit, but I wouldn't be surprised. If,
I guess we were entering like cyberpunk vibes over here. Then, of course, I think it's important, of course, to distinguish between like conspiracy theories saying that WEF rules the whole world, nothing in the world happens without the WEF, but distinguishing that kind of things from a certain concern that all the powerful people meet in one place and discuss things together. And if all the powerful people meet together and discuss things together, maybe they cooperate certain stuff with each other, and maybe that stuff may not be in the best of interests of everyone.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when you have several powerful political leaders, you can trace them all back to one organization. Should be a little bit of a cause for concern. And when I say concern, I don't mean like genuine worry, but it should make you think a little bit.
I mean, it's a similar situation to like a monopoly being established within the economy, in the sense that, if you have one company dominating a certain market, it might be beneficial, it might be running quite well, and it might be quite efficient, yet it's still a monopolist, and as such, it has the ability to do much stuff, if it so desires. I mean, at the same time, if you're a politician these days, can you really not go? Can you afford not to go to WEF? In the sense that if every single country is going to the WEF, and every single businessman of notice, and I don't know, writer or professor or whatever is going to Davos, if you decide not to go, you're missing out on all the opportunities of making contact with everyone else, and you're just gonna be left out like that kid standing in the corner. So it's not a funky situation, I think.
That's quite frustrating.
Because
kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't, almost.
Because the things with Klaus Schwab, he has some interesting books, especially on the Fourth Industrial Revolution, where he visualizes a world where digitalization kind of eliminates the structures of the state, and you have private companies becoming more and more important. It sounds quite cyberpunk, but I think Yuval Harari is more interesting and dangerous when it comes to ideas promoted. So Harari says loads of stuff, and I cannot forget when I was reading his Sapiens book. On some page, he had the picture of Pope Francis with a little comment attached, like, "This is the Catholic alpha male who has decided not to reproduce for no sensible reason." Because I think Harari was making some kind of argument that alpha males always need to reproduce or something.
Right.
And because that's how hierarchies are formed. But then the Catholic alpha male.
The Catholic alpha male reproduces spiritually.
Well,
Yeah.
some did physically, like Alexander VI.
Well, we get the best of both worlds, but
Does Harari believe in that kind of natural hierarchy then? Because I don't know much about him, but I wouldn't expect. Or is he just making more of a joke there?
I think it's kind of like a wacky take of an ignoramus in terms of religion. Well, he's not too fond of organized religion because he thinks that organized religion, especially Abrahamic faiths, persecute homosexuality.
Well, isn't there a slight irony in being extremely skeptical of organized religion, but then trying to put forward just an extremely organized secular counterpart? Like,
I think it's not extremely organized. I use Harari's idea because he has this weird notion of dataism that the data itself will become a religion and it will have like this gnostic quality of wanting to permeate everything. That data has to be transferred and everything has to be converted into data. It's really wacky, and well, that's why it's kind of interesting to actually read Harari. But nonetheless, the scary stuff comes with transhumanism that Harari promotes.
yeah, I suspected he'd be part of that crowd.
Because essentially, like, well, if you have transhumanism, in order to augment your body, you kind of require some financial capital. And if you have the ability to augment your body and just become so much superior or whatever, and have, like, I don't know, upload your consciousness into the cloud, only people with substantial financial capital will be able to do it. So you get yourself, like, a certain the distinction between the rich who are capable of actually affording that and everyone else who's not capable of affording that. And it creates, it again, cyberpunk vibes of massive economic inequalities. And well, I think we can already see in this that we have enough economic inequality in this world.
Yes.
Not cash money.
Well, I thought about this issue, and luckily transhumanism, I believe, has yet to enter the mainstream. Thankfully, it may in the future, but I mean, I considered, for instance, like something that particularly scares me is that, like, I don't know how plausible this is, but cognitive enhancements, which obviously the rich would have first access to. So I don't know, like that whole idea of designer babies, where you can they can adjust the genetic makeup of a baby before it's born, before it's made or whatever. If they could adjust its intelligence or IQ or whatever, then that wouldn't be very nice, because then you'd have a rich elite who's more intelligent than everyone else, which enables them to make even more technology that drives it will just accelerate them so far ahead of everyone.
So you get the possibility of creating like a new human race, a new human subspecies.
Yeah, post-humans.
Yes. I mean, I guess this is the reason why I think the left should be against these ideas, because well, they're very much. I think that this transhumanism kind of stuff is more connected with liberalism, and well, the left. If the left cares about the rights of workers, economic equality, and just the genuine human condition, I don't think they don't think it's in the interest of anyone to allow for conditions to be set up to we should promote the kind of thinking that would lead to visualization of like this new kind of Mount Olympus with new human gods or like dominating over everyone else. Because that's kind of the vision that is sketched out by Harari. And well, the sad thing is that he's taken seriously by so many people.
Yeah, which surprises me.
I mean, he's a favorite of the Silicon Valley and companies there, with Mark Zuckerberg being especially fond of him.
Well, I can see why if like the idea is
Metaverse
he's
as well.
spouting or kind of in favour of what they're already doing.
And well, even when it comes to a so-called conservative government in Poland with Mateusz Morawiecki meeting Harari as a great figure, is the kind of sense of like, well, sure, Harari might be well known, but like, is he and his ideas the kind of things that we want to promote as something noticeable or worthy enough to be encountered by the Polish Prime Minister?
On this topic of transhumanism, I'm thinking that it would be interesting to actually discuss now reasons why we as Catholics would oppose that, like concrete points, just for the viewers, because it might seem like a nice little fun chat now, but potentially within our lifetimes, this will be something that will be out there, like a big public debate.
Yes.
And I think it's one of those things that the Catholic Church ought to prepare for.
I mean, Mr. President, as the Catholic alpha male of Norwich, what can you say?
So when Vatican III comes around, so once they finish discussing
Roblox.
Roblox matters, and then they move on to transhumanism.
Yes.
What are like some concrete points from a Catholic perspective
Yeah.
against transhumanism and why it's evil, pretty much? Well, I mean,
Look at that, I'm so thrown out at the moment.
well, that's fun. But I mean, it's the idea. I mean, firstly, just that idea of your innate dignity as a human being created by God in His image, and by attempting to improve upon it, you know, in whatever manner that might be, whether it's genetically or through like some kind of technological enhancement, it's you're tampering with God's creation where you shouldn't be at the end of the day. And
There are practical concerns as well, in the sense that at what point are we going to say that no, this is wrong? In the sense that okay, if we have a priest who was in a car accident and let's say lost his right arm and he gets himself a prosthetic, well, this prosthetic might be very advanced and more capable of, well, more powerful than just a normal human arm. But nonetheless, the priest didn't get it because he wanted to get it in the first place. It's the case that he lost his arm and now he wants to have a prosthetic in order to be able to function. Like, is that okay? Is that not okay? And like, what are the theological impacts on his ability to say the mass and stuff like that?
I mean, I would personally just initially ask about the nature of the prosthetic itself and to what extent it interacts with his own body. Because obviously it's very different to just having like a wooden arm tied to a stump. So I suppose it really depends on to what degree that prosthetic would interact with or alter his own body. Because if it was just, for example, something he could just strap onto his arm, yet perhaps it's so technologically advanced that it then functions as a normal arm. And personally, I from a Catholic perspective, I wouldn't see a particular issue with that. But for me, if it would be something that would in some way alter his own body or go beyond what a normal human arm should be capable of, I feel that's where issues arise.
I think intention is very much important here, in the sense that there's a difference if you suffered a terrible accident, and there's a difference if you're a priest and you're saving up all your money in order to get yourself the bankers' new aesthetic prosthetic mark.
I mean, I suppose the biggest question would be how does it affect your humanity? Because we're made in the image and likeness of God. First and foremost, we're in that image through our spirit. But in the same vein of if you got a ship and you replace all the parts, is it the same ship?
Oh, ship of Theseus.
Exactly.
Very nice.
If you replace all your body parts, are you the same person? Are you a human?
Do you want to like just briefly go over the ship of Theseus for the audience? Or?
I don't know.
Does it not need like the exact story, but just like the basic idea,
Just
the premise of like
So-
replacing parts and stuff.
You have a ship. I'm not.
What is the
I'm
name?
over. Huh?
What's the name of the ship?
I don't know.
Get me convinced with the story, I need to buy it.
So you have a ship. This name is Lewis. The ship.
Louise.
Lewis. It's a male ship. It has a long, hard hull. Okay.
Mom.
Okay.
It's made of redwood.
I can visualize it.
So imagine it is under the control of Germanic pirates in the 14th century.
Lord have mercy.
Christ have mercy. This ship has been through quite an adventure. It has been to the Mediterranean, has been to the North Pole, and has been
Gosh,
to the south coast of
century.
Africa.
See, Germans always wanted to invade that.
Exactly.
has it been to Hyperborea as well?
No, it has not.
No, you used to dig it down into the effort.
But then, as soon as it reaches the Horn of Africa, it turns out it's on its last leg, both literally and figuratively. And henceforth, they need to take a pit stop along the then country of Somalia, which is definitely present. And
Continue, sir.
and so the kind natives decide to help out the Germanic pirates who have given them hoards of treasure for their hospitality and good food, and as a result, the natives come along with the nice acacia trees, and turn it into and replace all the wooden parts of Lewis.
So that's
With
Louise.
acacia wood.
That's Louise.
And
That's
thus-
Louise become Louise.
And thus, Lewis. At what point do we lose Lewis?
Mm.
Is the soul of Lewis still there, present within that structure of a ship that is under the control of Germanic pirates? Or as a result of all the redwood being escorted and discarded and replaced with acacia, is Lewis now Louise? Or what determines Lewis's presence? Is it his spiritual essence? Is it the will of the people that bring him forth? Or is it the material? Is it the physical being of redwood that is Lewis? Is Lewis redwood and is Louise acacia? or is it a question of
Stop waffling!
or is it a question of is Lewis both the redwood and the acacia? It's in the same vein.
It's good to know.
In
that
the
this
same
7
vein,
years
if
of
we have flesh, we are men of flesh. We are men and women of flesh, brought upon by the Creator. We have been designed specifically to have this flesh on our bones. Now the question is, if we replace that with, say, plastics,
Microplastics.
do the plastics detract from our innate humanity? My name is Igor. Is the flesh Igor, or can the plastic also be Igor? That is the question.
Well, first of all, let me say that it is good to know that after being in university and being separated from you still have not lost the ability to waffle.
You'd fit right in my English seminars.
That's very
That's why I chose geography.
I mean, yes, you're touching upon the fundamental questions of identity and like, what makes you you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is a good segue to identity politics.
I mean, I feel there's still like a little bit more that could be
Yeah.
said, to be fair. But
You cut out that part. I just want to.
it's alright, Igor.
We can do it.
Yeah.
Squeeze in more.
Yeah. I mean, Oscar.
Oh yeah, I want to squeeze in more. I just want to say some identity policy. That was funny. Anyway.
Oscar, it looked like at one point you were going to say something, but.
Yes, we were talking about genetics, and well, I think I feel recently that there has been more advancement made into genetic engineering in the terms of, I think they're getting closer to being able to remove specific genes that cause diseases and stuff like that in embryos, and that sounds nice to be able to like I guess, rid people of some genetic diseases, but if we can't just change the DNA, how far can we go with it? What can we change? Can we start changing people's like physical appearance or other aspects of them that are not like diseases, but just their genes that make up them?
I mean, yes, this appears to be like a fundamental question of bioethics that we have on our hands. Let's say that technology does develop in that direction and we are capable of fixing, well, genes that contribute to genetic illnesses and cause deformities. Do we have the moral right to do that? And this is why we require Vatican III. Roadblocks, transhumanism, and bioethics.
Of course, with Roblox at the top of priorities.
Of course.
Of course.
Yeah, I think the main problem of transhumanism is the whole slippery slope effect, whereby initial movement in the technology will result in such a drastic slope that at some point eventually we will never be able to go back. And while it might seem good initially, and especially in the short term, with enhancing our innate abilities, becoming stronger, being more resistant to diseases and what's not, at some point eventually, because it does seem beneficial to that extent, and so people, obviously there will be a good amount of people that support it, and it will keep pushing on and on. At some point, how are you going to stop that technology when everyone will be enhanced genetically? Like, you have to genetically detract yourself again, but I'm not sure many people will be willing to undergo that effect. And if it does genuinely affect our humanity,
I mean,
how can we ever regain it?
If we would stop with the, if we get to that point, if we would stop with it, after like centuries, we could still like, I guess, get back to what was used to, because without the constant genetic engineering, we will still mutate. We will still get back, I guess, to the point where we were before. But still, yeah, of course, it wouldn't be good to get to that point in the first place. It's better to stop it now before it's gonna get to that point, and then we're gonna start kind of questioning it.
Sorry, but I think I don't know how reliable this is or how true it is, but I remember reading somewhere. This more kind of falls into the realm of selective abortion, but I remember reading somewhere that, I don't know whether it was Iceland or one of the Nordic countries, but it was that there are now no more babies born with Down syndrome.
That was Iceland.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Iceland, yeah. Which
so,
is-
so, Crusade on Iceland required.
Yeah. It's, when I read that, I was, I don't know what to say, that was,
I mean, have these
Shocking.
people met someone with Down syndrome? Like,
Precisely.
because that's the thing.
Like, with saying such stuff, you're essentially saying that people with Down syndrome are not worth your life.
It's very saddening to hear that, especially I have some people, I guess, close to me, which I had said justified in saying the sense of such people don't have a good quality of life, or they're a very big strain on the caregiver, where the caregiver won't be able to support them because they take out so much resources, and the caregiver doesn't have enough resources to help them, so they won't have a good life either way. So it's just better for them to avoid living the life if it's just going to be in complete misery. But at the same time, can we have the say of saying just choosing who gets to live depending on how good they live or not?
yeah.
And how do we know they are going to have a good life? There are many people which came from like bad places, like maybe they were orphaned, they were in a bad and they didn't have a good start to life, but they still managed to get a decent life or do something good and be happy. Or there are many people with like developmental disabilities, but are still very, I guess, like what's the word? But they still contribute a lot to the society that they're in, to the groups that they're in.
Yeah. They can still thrive.
They can still function. They can still thrive. It's not for us to say that they're just gonna have a bad quality of life, and it's gonna be more merciful to just kill them.
Yeah. and for because like abortion lobbyists is such a left wing area as well, you would think that for a group of people who crusade so much about bodily autonomy and the like, you would think that they wouldn't subscribe to an idea where you're essentially saying to someone, yeah, I don't think your life is worth you living, so you should just die. Yeah.
It's the culture of death that St. John Paul II was writing about.
Yeah.
But, I mean, contribution to the society is important. Every single life is important. And we as Catholics do know that the victory comes through suffering. And, well, there would have been no resurrection of the cross. And there is value in the suffering. So even if misery occurs within your life, we do believe that that is valuable, ultimately. And there is meaning precisely in suffering. But what the modern world says is precisely the opposite.
Yes.
Well, modern world, it's of course, it's a label that we use to simplify things. But nonetheless, the general culture that we experience here in the UK or many other Western countries is that which matters in life is some notion of satisfaction, not even a happiness. Just the feeling of satisfaction, of, well, I like the taste of this. This felt nice. This felt good. This is what life is about. If I didn't experience these things, if I didn't experience these nice feelings, then life becomes unimportant to me. If I experience hardship, suffering, and toil, blood and sweat and tears, then surely that means that my life has no value, and I should go to Canada and allow the doctors to do some funky stuff.
Yeah.
But that's not the case. I mean, throughout history we see that, well, medieval peasants surely had worse living conditions and had probably worse lives than we do. But nonetheless, you don't see mass accounts of medieval peasants committing suicide. You don't.
Yeah.
Or like telling doctors like, G. Wilkes, doctor, you know, the harvest was so bad, please euthanize. You don't. The problem is not with like the economic or like material party of life, it's the problem of the culture that's around, and that convinces people, allows people to become convinced that their life has become meaningless. And it's so sad.
I think that on that topic, an impression I've come to have more as I've gone through life, compared to when I was younger, is that like if you just pick out the average person who say like is quite secular or not very practicing in their religious beliefs, even that they're not inclined to subscribe to that. It's more like, as you say, it's a cultural thing. It's the wider structures around them.
The noosphere.
Yeah, the noosphere. Like the way I like to see it is kind of like people have been almost like robbed of the chance for finding genuine, because it's like a metaphor I've heard is like of a chessboard. Is like, you know, you're somewhat restricted. Like when you're playing chess, you know, you can't move a piece out of the board and like start, I don't know, going around. You can't do that. But then there's like, I think there's billions or more, like quadrillions or something, like combinations you can do in chess. So it's almost like the board we're given is messed up in some way, and then that restricts the kind of movements people can make or directs them in a bad way. Yeah, because yeah, people do want meaning in their life, and I think a lot of people are willing to suffer to find that meaning, but the options offered now are limited and shoddy at best often.
The best we get short-lived satisfactions, which people usually get addicted to and think that's all they need, because of how easy they're to get them nowadays, and how they're just popularized, just
advertised. You know, what was the case is that we no longer really need to leave the house. It's not like we have to go out and work in the fields, till the land. No. You got your laptop, order yourself whatever you want. Get yourself your food, watch some Netflix and chill by yourself.
Work from home even.
Yes, that's true too. And if you do not experience the beauty of the world outside, of God's creation, well, no wonder you're going to be miserable.
Yeah. From personal experience, I'm somewhat ashamed to admit, but a week or so ago I had my courses reading week, so obviously I had no seminars or lectures or anything like that. And I think that was a week where there was no mass on campus on Wednesday evening, so I didn't have a specific reason to leave the house on that day. And I think I didn't leave the house until the weekend, like properly. And I think when I finally did on the weekend, it was literally just to go to the shops around the corner, I think of Kaz, and I realised, this is so nice. Why haven't I been out of the house the whole week? I was just feeling the air on my face, and like, there's a main road outside, there are cars going past, and I hate traffic normally, but I was just thinking how pleasant it was. Yeah, it was just after not leaving the house, I wasn't feeling particularly miserable. I just realised, you don't fully realise what you're losing until you experience it after a period of deprivation.
I mean, what you're losing is really, you live in a house with other people, but if you didn't happen to live in a house with other people, if you never left the house, you're losing all the potential connection with other people.
Yeah.
And, well, what in this world is interesting if not other people? That people using a metaphor by Adrian, one of Poland's national poets.
Big up.
Of course. Very funky guy in himself. I think we should have a podcast just about Adrian. But essentially, he says that people, in one of his poems, people are like little worlds unto themselves. And that's so true in the sense that, well, we might have the core, the star in the center, kind of like the core of our personality, of who we are, what makes us up, our identity, and the different planets of our hobbies and interests and little personal quirks. And that's it. Well, people are endless and deepest in terms of like how they can change, develop, improve, become better, and just so interesting. And if you never leave the house, you never get to experience how interesting other people are. And going back to yet again, well, my, I guess, favorite game at this point, Disco Elysium. The world of Disco Elysium is very bleak. Well, 50 years after the failed revolution, with foreign powers occupying your country, with signs of war still being marked, many buildings just being ruins, kids running around, playing in the mud, alcoholics wandering the streets. And just like, that's true. That's true.
Sounds like where I used to live.
And well, unemployment being sky high, with life really just being bleak. You have a partner in your investigation of a lynching, and I guess if there is like an ultimate meaning to the game, or something that every single player experiences, is the company of this fellow investigator who's there no matter how stupid and wacky you make your character, and believe me, you can make your character so absolutely stupid. Philip, as a fellow Disco Elysium enjoyer, can confirm that. But yeah, it's kind of the thing that in this Vale of Tears, in this world of ours, if something matters, it's our neighbours. And that's precisely why you should leave your room.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
No,
Igor did his signature like groan sound. Go ahead, Mr. President.
Well, in a way, the house is a comfort zone, and you need to leave your comfort zone to actually find what you're looking for. So that's just essentially why people don't find their fulfillment, because if you're just constantly living in comfort, it's like you said, you don't know what you're missing unless you genuinely experience it. And in the same vein, if you're constantly in your comfort zone and you never leave it, you don't know what you're missing outside of that comfort zone. So you don't know how you're missing the fresh air outside if you're always in the house. So, and you can only find that fulfillment outside of your current capabilities, because how can you be fulfilled if you're already in that, zone of safety and I guess comfort.
Yeah,
Right.
it's just kind of passivity and that's pretty good.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
That's to bring some Jungian stuff into this.
I'm getting esoteric.
Just 'cause of what you mentioned reminded me of this. The home being like a safe haven, like a sanctuary. It very much is true. It's like the home is a thing of order. It has very clear boundaries, definite boundaries, i.e. the walls around it. And the outside world, is scary. It's like chaos, potential. But the ideal is the kind of Jungian ideal is to be on the border between chaos and order. So you don't want to be just out there homeless, because you'll probably end up stabbed or meet some other horrible fate. But at the same time, if you just stay at home, you don't encounter any opportunities for growth. Something I actually wanted to mention here about that, and going outside and like what encourages that. What I've noticed as someone who lives in Luton but then goes to Cambridge to study, the place where you're at makes quite a big difference.
Yeah.
But back in Luton, I don't like to go outside very often because it is really bleak and grey and frankly ugly.
Well, I just walk around at night. I actually do feel uneasy in Luton. But over here, I'm fine.
I'm the same. Like at uni, like I could go out at like I literally a few days ago went at like 3 a.m. for like an adoration, like a 40 hours thing, which was very worthwhile. Sometimes I can be a bit lazy, just with my faith, but I think that was a very worthwhile and moving experience. But yeah, I felt safe going there and back, but back home would be a different story.
I mean, back home in Folkestone, my family house is not in the nicest of areas. So, I mean, I can very much I don't know if it has quite the legendary aura of danger and discomfort as Luton. No offense to people viewing from Luton.
It's true.
These guys are from there, so. But yeah, that sense of just not even really feeling like going out because of what is outside and how that can be so different in different places.
Well, this reminds me of especially what you were talking about. And especially since Adrian kept going about this Coliseum. Minecraft. So, we all know the general gist of Minecraft, how
Well, I don't know, the viewers might not.
zombies, there's scary creatures at night.
Creepers.
And so, the first goal is you build a house, you build a safe haven, otherwise you will die. And obviously we don't want to die. You need to protect yourself, and so you go out, you get materials, and you build yourself a home. And that will be generally your base for the whole rest of the game, right? And Minecraft is quite a long game. There isn't really an explicit end goal. Although it can be argued that there is an objective. However, you cannot progress at all in the game unless you do go out of that house. And obviously there is going to be that danger every time you do, due to the said presence of zombies and skeletons and creepers. And,
Man.
and you have to risk your life a bit to get some accomplishment in that game. You can't go up the ladder of technological progress, because you start from wooden tools to steel and iron to eventually you get diamond, and you
There's
can
Neverite now.
and now you can get even higher.
more difficult to obtain. It's quite dangerous.
Exactly.
You
Can we
literally need to
get
go to
much
hell.
higher?
Not only you need to go to a different physical plane for the highest tier of metal crafting, and that just goes to show you need to unlock some sort of bravery to progress and grow. However, there's always going to be that impending doom. So do not worry. Always go back to your house when you need be.
Is someone coming for you?
If you're Newton.
Well,
True.
no, I mean, okay, since we're on the topic of games already, I mean, I think when you compare Minecraft and Fortnite, Minecraft is far more valuable to a human being in terms of development, in the sense that in Minecraft, well, you get to develop your creativity, because you build nice stuff and just that. You also, well, I mean, Fortnite is, the difference is that Minecraft is a single player game. There are, of course, multiplayer capabilities out there, but at least most often it was played as a single player game back in the good old days. Fortnite is very much the opposite. Then you have all the old children shouting at each other a very interesting language. But in Minecraft, right, you get to build yourself your house, you get to have a farm, you make sure that you have enough food, you go into the mines, go into the caves, explore, fight skeletons and zombies, and you come out victorious. And it's the sense of embarking on an adventure and returning from it, and also just developing, getting more resources. It's a very much a story where, well, it's a sandbox, so you create your own story, and creativity of yours is being developed in such a way. Whereas in Fortnite, well, I think that motions that are developed by Fortnite are much different, in the sense that, well, there's such a highly competitive nature of the game of killing 99 different people in order to be the only man standing. Promotes different values than Minecraft.
Additionally, spending money is promoted a lot.
Yes, that's true.
Somewhat Nietzschean, perhaps.
I guess so.
Darwinist.
Yeah.
But with Minecraft, that's not the case. I mean, you have a multiplayer service. Most often you have people building stuff together, getting into factions and groups. It like imitates real life to an extent, with communities forming. And so, I believe this is my spicy statement for the night, that Catholic parents should make sure that their children play Minecraft at some point.
Amen!
Amen.
Heard it here first. You know, I was going to join you because I remember in that last episode where we all stood up to clap, but I thought of the hilarious image of just you standing up by yourself, and I just had to watch.
And also, I guess relating to episode 1, kids in Minecraft also build churches and do masses.
Yes.
Wait, did you mention the Roblox masses?
Yeah, of course!
There's one I think of, like worldwide server on Minecraft which is quite big, and the Catholic churches advertise them as just a community for Catholics to expand on their faith, and they just help any player.
I mean, big up me.
They give food and anything and any needs they need for free.
Big up me how my guy from Oxford, who's in between writing very arduous essays for PPE, building a very nice splendid cathedral in Minecraft. I do remember very fondly the few moments of us being there like 9 p.m. at the chaplaincy library, and me helping on Minecraft and be like, right, I want to build a cathedral. Like, what style, what kind of things, the design of the architecture. That is precisely the capability of Minecraft. You can build cathedrals. You can build such nice churches. You can develop. You can be creative. And well, what is like by being creative, we are participating somewhat. We are imitating God in the sense that God is the ultimate creator, and creativeness is part of the divine reality of things.
Draws us closer to God.
Yes.
That's partly why I would encourage anyone watching, if they don't bake cakes, to have a go at it. That's right, that seems like a very random segue,
No,
but just in the line of how we imitate our creator in what we create. Since coming to university, I've started baking cake quite regularly. Igor can attest to that. And
They're very good.
Well, why is there no cake now?
I'm sorry, I did bake one yesterday, but it was all eaten.
We have a
after
cancer
mass.
for the cake.
We do
But-
have,
but-
Oh yes, that's true.
but
It's not the same.
But it's just in the sense of creating something and seeing some little fraction of good in it, and I mean, it's just incredible to imagine how much more infinite and overwhelming God's goodness is as the ultimate
And
creator.
you mentioning food is very much in line here in terms of theology. We have the image of the Eucharistic feast. Well, the nourishment that is being provided, the deep and rich symbolism of communion that occurs when everyone sits down around the table and just eats food together and enjoys a nice conversation.
I think it's one of the most universal
Human experiences.
and,
Yes.
and universally enjoyed as well, because there's people who will, you'd think, oh, everyone likes art. Well, not everyone really does. Not everyone likes looking at it. Not everyone likes watching movies, all this. Not everyone likes sport. But then just sitting around the table and eating, I think just about everyone loves that. There is something very and it's quite beautiful that in the way that the Eucharist then is the center of our faith. It's almost like we're all directed towards this. Like the Mass is like it is like a shared feast in some ways, and then that helps us look toward the future feast.
The imagery and point by the Catholic Church and by the truth is so fantastic in the sense that the Mass is both a sacrifice and a communion, the Eucharistic, or the prelude, the future heavenly banquet at the same time.
Yes.
And it's probably the two most valuable, important, or significant images that we have as humans. The notion of sacrifice, of giving up something that is so dear to you for everyone else, for others, for the sake of something greater than you. And then the communion, the image of being together, participating in the same thing with everyone else, and uniting. That's just so good.
Yeah, something I've thought about before, and kind of psychologizing the Mass a bit. But this is in no way detracting from it as a spiritual experience. Definitely not. But I think it definitely provides something psychological for people. That's very fulfilling. In the sense that, I think it's a cathartic experience, because on the one hand it makes you undergo this very a very sorrowful retreat or drawing into oneself, with the sacrifice and mea culpa and remembering our sins and the fact that Christ died for us. So it almost drags us down. But then when we're at that bottom, that emotional low, we're lifted up again with that promise of the resurrection and the life to come. And I think that's very necessary. It's very necessary to undergo that kind of process and release your emotions and then to be lifted up again. It's a cleansing experience, I think. Just tying that to what you said.
Disclaimer, none of us is a theologian.
Yes.
Well, this might not be the most domestically minded discussion of Catholicism you have witnessed, but nonetheless, I can assure you that it's very much sincere.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Professionalism, maybe not, but sincerity for sure. Guaranteed.
Goodwill.
Perfectionism when it comes to Minecraft.
Or
That's
Well,
true.
books.
We're epic pro gamers here. My guy.
Well, but Philip, in terms of, like you just said about the psychology of the Mass, I feel that it's important not to be too worried when, because obviously you said not to detract from the spiritual aspect of it, but I find that, I think Sister Teresa actually spoke about this yesterday in her discernment formation session, but God understands perfectly what we as human beings need, and so it makes sense that with something like the Mass and the sacraments like confession, it satisfies all of our needs, including like the spiritual ones foremost, but every other need as well. So yeah, it's another wonderful example of God's infinite knowledge and mercy, and yeah, it's one of the many reasons why it's great to be a Catholic.
Yes.
Amen.
Amen.
I mean, the access to sacraments is just such a big and important thing. Like it is a privilege to have access to that. It's a very concrete display of God's grace.
Yeah. I think that I think some atheists might be too quick to dismiss is that when you look at the effect that things like the sacraments have on Catholics, and when you look at the secular effects, or just like the psychological side, the emotional side, and the rest, they do. I feel that they do all point to the spiritual side, and I think lots of people are too quick to dismiss that as if like something could have all of these benefits and somehow satisfy all the cravings of the human's psyche, I guess, and yet that there's nothing more beyond that. Apparently, it's just personally I struggle to understand how people could dismiss that. So
I think it's the same fallacy that such thinking runs into as the fallacy of Homo economicus, so the economic man or human, in the sense that, well, in traditional economics, you have the assumption that a man is a rational being and therefore makes economically rational choices, which we know is not the case. Because the notion of a Homo economicus, or economic man, only looks towards one dimension of human existence. But humans didn't have like just one dimension of our existence. Well, we are very much composite beings with all these different things: logic, rationality, being bundled together with emotions, experience, perception, and you cannot isolate the aspects of human life from each other because that's just not real. Reality is composed precisely by all these things overlapping, mixing together, being in dialogue, and just being together, compressed within the little universe of a human being.
I would say that for people who
just so you like setting up and everything. We've reached the climax of the episode right now.
I better say something important. Or something at least insightful, but no, I was just thinking, like, I would like to say about that Homo economicus is an example of people misunderstanding human nature. Well, of course, to even speak of human nature nowadays is controversial. But I feel as though that, that was actually quite an enduring theme throughout this entire discussion, human nature, despite it not being explicitly mentioned.
Yes.
I mean, we started with the priests being unfortunately murdered. Peace. May he rest in peace. But then we did just move on to like world economic forum, transhumanism and all that, which we did really touch upon, what it means to be human, how far we can push that, what are the boundaries, what are the limits, and gosh, I don't know. Where do we go from there? We
Discussion of video games?
We went on like the kind of slightly Nietzschean aspect of Minecraft and its relation to real life, how you have to, you got to go down into some dark caves to get some diamonds in life.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So,
I feel like,
And the Fortnite and the Ubermensch.
You can only find the light in the darkness.
yeah, it's a lot about like how we work as humans and our nature. And I think to go against all this, to kind of argue now those skeptics who say it doesn't exist. Well, why the heck do so many of us spend so long talking about it and discussing it?
We delude ourselves.
Oh no. I mean, for centuries we've been discussing this, what it means to be human, what it means to live a good life as a human. And the fact we even identify that as an important topic, clearly, I think, to me means that there is some form of nature that we have that we need to consider and lay out to improve our understanding of ourselves and to then live up to our potential, I would say, the potential that God put in us, what He wants for us. Because I'll try and be quick now, not waffle too much. I recently heard an interesting homily back in Blackfriars, Cambridge.
The worst Blackfriars.
And it was about, you know, a human nature, but then tying it to morality. And you know, when maybe some priests can go a bit far sometimes, like that Polish priest who said that if your kids start wearing black clothes, it's a sign of something going wrong. But
disclaimer: Transhumanism is no longer or fully in communion with the Catholic Church.
So that probably explains it. But you know, when a priest stands there and like tells you, gives you certain moral teachings, it's not really like. Often it's not just him like pointing his finger at you and like imposing his power on you in a like very Foucauldian sense. Because I don't know, people seem to see power in everything nowadays, but he's simply pointing out that if you go against your nature, the nature that God instilled within you, you're going to hurt yourself. And yeah, like God doesn't choose these, quote unquote, teachings arbitrarily. He gave us a certain nature, and He wants what's good for us. So the kind of point is that we're told what to do so that we can live up to that nature and find genuine happiness, rather than run away from it or resist it or just flat out refuse to believe that it exists.
I mean, recently, I think it was a week or two ago, I had a very powerful confession with the priest, and yes, it was just before the beginning of Lent. So I think it must have been the previous Saturday, and certain words just cemented themselves in my mind. And those were words that you are called to holiness, you are meant to be holy, because that's how God created you. In the sense that, well, we have been created in order to be holy, in order to be with God. And that is the key of our nature as human beings. We do yearn, we demand, and, well, maybe demand is not the right word, but we seek and search and just so ardently and passionately want to be with God. And we look and try to find ways to do that. And many people do fail. The path truly is narrow, yet it's just so much ingrained within the existence of a human being to precisely search for God that it speaks about something. Like, it is not the case, well, pretty much universally throughout human history you see certain forms of religiosity and spirituality. And if there was no aspect of human nature that is common throughout all ages, why is this the case? Why can we see that pretty much generally there is a notion of spirituality in every culture, in every society? There is certain demand and desire of the individual heart to reach something higher, to grasp a different reality. If there is no God, if there is no thing higher than us.
I agree with everything you said, so there's not much I really need to add. But I just noticed now, like, that your thumb is quite pointy. Like, it hadn't occurred to me before. From certain angles especially, like, I don't know if it's.
They are, yeah.
Oh.
Wait, Igor, wait, Oskar, what about you? So is Igor's.
Well, mine's
Well-
quite pointy.
well,
and
Mine's quite
God-
slim.
God made us in His image and likeness, and we are all made for all certain vocations.
Is this staying?
Yeah,
Well,
well,
gesticulate.
to segue this to a good point, we are all made to fulfill our duties. We all have our vocations, and we are made in the perfect image of how to fulfill that vocation. And so you use your God-given pointy thumbs in any way capable to fulfill yourself and live a life chaste in Christ. Amen.
Don't use them to gouge anyone's eyes out.
No.
Unless it is
Unless
unless it is a demon and you're doing God's work.
If only-
Amen.
Or if it's, if it falls within the purview of Aquinas' just war,
God.
then maybe it's morally acceptable to gouge someone's eyes out. But
Unless it's a sum of the World Economic Forum. Amen.
anyway, right. I reckon that's a good place to end it. But thank you so much, guys. That was actually a really
No, thank
insightful
you,
conversation.
Jamie,
Yeah,
for
Jamie,
bringing us to you.
Thank you.
No, I'm just grateful you guys are happy to.
No, thank
Kind of
thank
like
Christ
walking
for bringing us all together and giving us life.
Well,
Okay. Well,
individual address from every single member of this panel, I think, is required. So, Jamie, please share your thoughts on this experience of hearing the waffling of two Oxford students,
no, I mean,
plus the usual waffling of Igor and that of Oskar.
yeah. Well, I mean, the waffling of Igor is always a treat, regardless. But I mean,
No,
you
that's
guys, it was great to hear your thoughts. I mean, obviously, Oxbridge, so big brain fellows, I know that must just sound like simple flattery, but you fellas are it's good to hear insight from you guys, basically, always.
Well,
And it's very encouraging to know that we have Catholics like you guys down there.
well,
So,
I must say that you not only have shown us a big brain of yours, but also with a big heart with such
Oh.
fine compliments.
I'm too kind, Adrian.
It's just the truth.
Thank you very much for watching episode 2 of Galilee. We hope you enjoyed. Do check out our previous episodes if you haven't yet. If you have any podcast queries, you can always contact our social media pages. Then we have Instagram and Facebook, or you could send us a direct email on UEA@CAFSOC No, that's incorrect. You can send us an email at UEACathsocpodcast@gmail.com. Or you can always leave a comment down below. And if you'd like to get involved, do contact us. We'd love to have more guests on always. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming today. I so much appreciate it. So thank you for watching, and God bless.
God bless.
Dona nobis pacem.
Okay, that's probably enough.
Wait, what are we going to?